welcome to Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day. Michael Deeb, you got some energy over there. You're doing doing a little dance, and I see that. That's Michael Deeb over there.
I had my coffee this morning, JP. I'm wide awake. Let's go.
You know, I had a coffee this morning too. My lovely wife Rochelle, who also helps produce the show, she is awesome. She made me some coffee, and it seems to have worn off. I don't know what's going on. Dragging a little bit. You guys don't care. Whatever. You're here for the cars. What do we do on the show? This is Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. We dig through Cars and Bids, Bring a Trailer, P-Car Market, Marked, Shiftgate, whatever other auction sites happen to pop up. We dig through all those auction sites and we find the most interesting car from all of them. Bring that car to you. Have a discussion about it. Get in on this, man. What are you doing? You're watching the show. Let's hear some comments. We're always talking about this stuff, but nobody wants to give their comments. What is that? Everybody wants to give their opinion these days. Let's get some 2 cents, man. What do you think of that, Michael Deeb?
JP, we're going to have a car from Shiftgate next week. We're going to have a car.
Wow.
The Shiftgate does, like everybody does 1 week auctions. The Shiftgate auctions are longer. And so while I found a car that'll be interesting to cover, it's still more than a week out. But we'll have a car next week from Shiftgate, which I think will be the first one we've ever covered on their platform. So it'll be cool.
That's interesting. Yeah, we should talk about that. We should do an episode just comparing all the auction sites, not even talking about cars, just like, okay, here's Bring a Trailer, here's Pre-Car Market, and just like, here, what's the difference between all of them? Would you guys like to see something like that? Tell us in the comments below right after you hit that subscribe button.
Say yes.
Share this video, guys. Share it. Share some nerds. Spread the nerds around. Nerds just smeared all over the place, right?
Send this video to your parole officer.
That is true. He will put you back in the can. All right, let's get to the car. The most interesting car of the day today. Okay, this is interesting. I think it's, people are always asking us, how do we pick the cars? They usually think, oh, it's going to be the most expensive. And sometimes, honestly, this car is not, in my opinion, interesting at all. But it is interesting to bring it up in the context of how we, what is interesting. Well, let's talk about this thing. What are we talking about, Michael Deeb?
All right. So Doug DeMiro's website or auction platform is called Cars and Bids. Cars and Bids has sent up for auction this 2021 Jeep Wrangler Sahara 4XE, which is a 4-cylinder plug-in hybrid that has 2 electric motors. And interestingly, let's see, an 8-speed automatic and all-wheel drive, right? All-wheel drive / 4-wheel drive. But interestingly, the power that this thing makes, John, it's 375 horsepower. And are you sitting down? 470 pound-foot of torque. So I don't care how heavy this thing is. I bet you it's freaking fast. That's a lot of oomph. That's a lot of grunt. And I don't care how it's coming. That thing probably goes. And yet from the outside, it looks like just any other Jeep, which I think is kind of cool. It doesn't look like an electric or a hybrid car. It looks like a damn Jeep. And yet this thing is probably a beast. So offered out of Houston, Texas, showing just 8,900 miles, and in this really scary limited edition gecko clear coat paint job, which I would call acid green, and then an unusual color match for the interior. I like the contrast of the black wheels and the black carpets, but I'm not feeling the saddle color leather interior with the acid green. I think they should have just stuck to black and appealed to a younger buyer. But anyways, John, this car, I just wanted one more other factoid for you before I send it over to you. This car was $57,000 brand new. Now, I know you know Jeeps really well. I don't, and I still, to me, is eye-watering when you think that you can go out and spend $60,000 on a Jeep Wrangler. But that's not uncommon. This thing also has a 3-piece retractable and removable hardtop. So I believe you can configure it like a Targa, you can configure it like a hardtop, and you can just remove it all together and have what I think is the most visceral Jeep experience, and that's to have no roof at all. Anyways, JP, I didn't know they made a drivetrain like this. I assume that you do because you're so familiar with the brand, but I just thought it'd be interesting. We've never covered a car like this, so I thought I'd put it out there and ask you what you think. I'd also say, and I'll just preemptively give this to you, I do think this is the right platform for this. I think that this is the type of car that DeMiro can sell. He's got the audience for a car like that. Would you agree with that sentiment before you tear this car down or build it up?
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, DeMiro tends to do well with they bill themselves as, enthusiast cars, 80s, 90s, and modern enthusiast cars. But really, he seems to do best with kind of late model stuff. If you have absolutely. If you have the least enthusiast car, and if you can kind of figure out a way to say, yeah, this is an enthusiast car, Cars and Bids is your place. Bring a trailer. They're not even going to accept it. They wouldn't. There's no way they'd accept this thing on BAT. P-Car will sell anything. I mean, they're, W words. I'm not even going to say the word. But, yeah, they're just – so, okay. But, look, we usually like to talk about the difference between the platforms, but this car really, really is interesting for a lot of reasons, I think. Yeah, the color is kind of over the top. It reminds me of our good friend Rami's. He had a G-Wagon in this color, which, a G63 is pretty crazy in this color. That kind of makes sense. And G-Wagons and Jeeps have always kind of been in that same boxy space.
For those of you that are scoring at home, that's not the G-Wagon that Rami had that caught on fire. That one was white.
Yeah. The many G-Wagons. Check out the Rami show on YouTube, guys, if you haven't checked that show out. That's one of our sister channels. We really have a lot of fun with that one, the Rami show.
NSFW, right?
Yeah. Okay, so this thing, look, EVs, right? EV vehicles are the thing. Obviously, it's the future. The market is just going more and more EV every day. You can't, everyone's talking about it from politics to car enthusiasm. You cannot hear enough about EV vehicles, Teslas and the new Rivians and all these things. So Jeep comes out with a hybrid. Instead of going full electric, they still have a 4-cylinder engine in here. Now, I do know the brand, or at least I do know Jeeps pretty well. I have not driven one of these yet. And when you talk about the power numbers, 300 horsepower and all that torque, that gets me excited because, I recently traded in my ICE Jeep. I had a 2016 Sahara Wrangler, and that vehicle was just the standard, 3.6 liter piece of junk Chrysler engine from a minivan. And as much as I liked that vehicle and as reliable it was and pretty darn inexpensive to maintain, it just felt like it was going to blow up at it. They're horrible. The powertrain in a standard Jeep is just terrible. There's not enough power, and it's just awful if you have to go anywhere. We talked about on a previous episode an old Cayenne Turbo and how great it is to eat up miles in one of those. A Jeep Wrangler is not. And every time I was behind the wheel of that Jeep, I was going, God, this thing would be great if it had an 8-cylinder, if it had some power. And then you talk about something like this, so the big question is, why the hell didn't they just go all EV, right? I mean, that's what everyone wants. Why still put a darn engine in it? And I think there's an answer to that, and it's a good one. And this vehicle, it's got that little dot on the side. It says trail rated, right? Whatever the heck that means. Range is far more important when you're off road.
Yeah.
Right? If you're on trails, if you're genuinely taking this thing out in the middle of nowhere, the further you get from a Charger, the bigger a problem you have in something like a Tesla or a Rivian or any of the other EV vehicles that are out there. And, if you're off-road and you run out of electric juice, you're SOL, right? At least this has an engine in it. So this totally makes sense that they would still go hybrid on a vehicle that's designed to go in some ways off-road. But then you look at the trim level and the way it's set up and everything about it just says mall crawler, right? You've got the color matched fenders. This isn't like a Rubicon. It doesn't have front and rear lockers, I don't think. If it did, then that would be pretty darn interesting. One of the biggest gripes I've heard about the new Defender aside from the way it looks and it not being boxy and rugged looking enough, the biggest offense of the new Land Rover Defender compared to its old Defender is that it's so electronic. And the old Defender, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you have a catastrophic failure, you could probably fix it, or at least get out of the woods, go get some parts, and come back and fix it. You were going to say something?
I was just saying you could always limp home in it, right? Like that's.
Well, I mean, okay. No, specifically, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is that if you have a catastrophic failure, let's say you lose the rear diff on or something, right? Something
old
really
Defender,
bad, right? On an old Defender, you could hike out of the woods. Maybe it takes you a month, right? But you get somewhere, you can collect the parts, you can get in another truck that's more reliable, go back out, find your Defender, and with tools that you can get anywhere, you could repair it and then drive the thing out of there, right? You could replace an engine if you had to, right?
Sure.
With the new Defender, if you're out in the Sahara or something like that and that thing fails, the electronic components, there's no way to helicopter any of that stuff in. There's no way. You have to have a computer to repair a lot of the repairs that that you could need on a new Defender. There's no so that thing just becomes a boat anchor out in the middle of the desert or out in the middle of somewhere. So something like this, having an engine in it as opposed to just electronic components, I think you're probably running into a similar situation. But let's say you're not crossing the Sahara. At least the problem that you're going to have most often when it comes to going off-road, and I've had this happen, is running out of fuel. You get way out there on a limb, and that's why you have extra gas cans and stuff like that. If you're going to try to do an overland adventure, that cannot be done with an EV. Just can't.
Yeah.
Your little solar generator thing ain't going to do it. At least this thing, you can throw a little bit more gas and you can get out of wherever you're going to go. I'm assuming, and I don't know the answer to this, I'm assuming that the gas engine in this is that this hybrid system is like the late Prius as opposed to the early Prius. The original Prius had a gas engine and an electric motor, both powering wheels. Whereas the later Prius, the later generation hybrid vehicles, like the Porsche ones and stuff like that, the engine is just there basically as an onboard generator. It's like bringing a Honda generator with you to charge up your the batteries, and that's probably what this one's doing, especially if it's putting out that kind of power. I'm really interested in going out and driving one of these and seeing what it's like, and if it fixes that lack of power issue. They also have a V8 version of one of these coming now too, so that'll be. Oh wow! And this is. Go ahead.
Good. I was just gonna say we should have had Brad on the show because he'd probably know more about these.
Yeah, I mean, here's the takeaway I think from what's going on in the market. It's great that Bronco by Ford has come out because it's finally forced Chrysler and the Jeep company to say, all right, we've got to innovate, because they've been just sitting. They've just been eating everyone's lunch. They're like, okay, we're going to make one of the most popular vehicles, and no one is going to try to copy us. Anyone? Yeah. Serious? Yeah. Okay, we'll just keep making billions of dollars. Thanks, all other auto manufacturers. So they haven't had to make the Jeep better, and this is, I think, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Jeeps now that the Wrangler is kind of up its butt. So let's see what you got, Jeep. Make a better Jeep, and I'll come back and get another one. All that said, you mentioned that this was a $57,000 Jeep. That is a very expensive Jeep. Jeeps are typically not very expensive, but hey, base Broncos, 4-cylinder Broncos that aren't hybrid with just a stick are going for $50,000 or more. So is this really crazy? I don't know. Where is this going to land? What do we got?
Well, JP, this auction doesn't close for 3 more days, and it's already sitting at $44,444 on 13 bids. So I guess the real question is, do we think this car is going to bring sticker with 9,000 miles on it? I don't know how hard it is to get Jeep at your local dealer. I would assume, every time I drive by a Jeep, they've got a ton of cars outside, but I couldn't tell you if they were new or used because they all look the same for all these years, which is a point you just made 2 minutes ago. So I'm really guessing here. I just want to assert one last thing. This is when I read the number, 375 horsepower and 470 pound-foot of torque, I would like to drive one of these. I want to see what that feels like, because I bet you the one I've ever driven has been a little granny gear torque monster, but it don't really drive. This thing sounds like it would get out of its own way. So JP, again, it's that basically $45,000 with a few days to go. I don't think it's going to bring sticker with 10,000 miles on it. So I'm going to say $50,000 wins this lot, but I am not strong on that guess. I am guessing because I don't know. So what do you think?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I have not kept up on the market of brand new Jeeps. It does seem like of all the manufacturers, they do seem to have more inventory than just about anyone. So are these hard to get? I don't know. I got to think they're not. I got to think the hybrid thing, although it makes, I just made the case for it, I don't see them making the case for it from a marketing point of view. I think it's just like, God, they're just totally missing the mark. They should have just straight up made an EV one and would have sold more of them, because most of the people that would benefit from my case just aren't the people that are going to buy it. If you're going off road, just get a nice one, be done with it. Why do you want something that's that's so complicated? So, boy, yeah. What was your number? What was your number?
50.
Yeah, I'll go a little over. I'll go 52. I'm going to say maybe that this is a little bit more difficult to get. I don't. Are they bringing more than sticker? Like, if you go to the dealership, is this one of those vehicles that they want 10 grand over? Maybe. I don't know. I do want to go out and drive one though, like right now.
Yeah, I want to see what that feels like. That sounds like it'd be fun.
If it drives anything like a G-Wagon, I'd like, okay, let me rephrase that. When a G-Wagon is awesome because it has power and it kind of has the same shape. Even the older G-Wagons, the older G-Wagon, the new G-Wagons handle amazingly, whereas the old ones not so much. But neither do Wranglers. But I would just like a Wrangler with some power, so I'm really curious about that. And I would trade my Macan like that. I don't care how great the Macan handles. I want another powerful Jeep. But hey, we're gonna find out. Look, are we idiots? Do we know what we're talking about? Probably not.
Even a little bit.
Let us know in the comments below. Hey, look, one thing I'm just now noticing, this vehicle's color matches our logo, which means I think we need to get one, right? Jeep, if you're watching, which I'm sure you are, CEO of Jeep, send us one of these, and we will tell everyone how great it is. But we're going to tell everyone how much this Jeep actually went for on Cars and Bids right after this word from our sponsor. Okay, guys, I want to tell you about Vegas Auto Fest. The drivers are coming. This is one of our big sponsors. It's the biggest car show of the year in Las Vegas. It's one of the coolest car shows you can possibly experience anywhere. If you haven't made plans to be part of Vegas Auto Fest on September 17th, then do it now. Go to vegasautofest.com and register your car. You think you're a car enthusiast? Doesn't matter where you live. Plan a trip to Vegas on September 17th and come out and see this show. It's like Monterey Car Week all in a day. Have you ever been to the Quail? Have you ever been to Works Reunion? Have you ever been to Amelia Island? All those car shows are amazing and great. Have you been to Luftkult? Sure, but Vegas Auto Fest is something special. Make a plan for September 17th. We'll see you in Vegas. Look at that. We're back. It's been a week for you guys. It's only been 60 seconds, but you are time traveling. We're here with you on the Bid Nerds, your daily nerd on the most interesting car of the day. Today's car is Bid Nerds Green. How exciting is this? Let's talk about what happened to this Jeep Wrangler Sahara 4XE hybrid on Cars and Bids. What happened, Michael Deeb?
Yeah, it's sold, JP. Look at this. It's sold for just under where we thought it would hit. So I said 50 grand. You came in on the over at 52,000. Our car sold for $48,750 on Doug DeMiro's site, which I still think is the right site for this type of vehicle. 19 bids, among the lowest number of bids, or action we would call it, of the cars we looked at for the week. But still, I think that's a strong number for a used, hybrid vehicle. I'm just intrigued by the model because I had never heard of it before we covered it today. All that power and all that torque, it does sound like something I'd like to drive. It may not be maybe as fun as those weak, torquey 6-cylinder Wranglers that we're all used to. But even though this thing probably doesn't make the right noises, I bet that torque, like on the highway, especially in Vegas, all the boulevards and the freeways in Vegas, if your car doesn't do 90 miles an hour, it's like you got to stay in the slow lane. I actually think this would be really fun to own out in the desert by you. So I'm just intrigued by the vehicle. I love that it's Bid Nerds green, and I think that number is all the money. And I got you. You came in the over, and we talked this car up, and then it just didn't quite hit 50 grand. I still think that's all the money. What about you?
I think I got excited about the fact that it exists as well. I knew that these were out there, but in all honesty, I didn't know how much power they had. I just kind of assumed that they were going to be just as squishy and underpowered as the other ones. But hearing about 300 horsepower, that just gets me...
375 horsepower and 470 pound-foot of torque. I mean, that's like a diesel 250 truck.
That's my Macan GTS. I mean, with a bunch of torque. And I got to tell you, driving around this weekend, I drove by a Jeep dealership, and I'm going, gosh, should I just swing in there and maybe trade this thing in? I'm not even kidding. I would rather have this Jeep than my Porsche Macan. I am having big time buyer's remorse from the Macan. The Macan has been great, but I don't like it.
Yeah. So this car is a EXE, which is electronic hybrid. Is that what turbocharged hybrid? So I find myself XE curious.
Well, guys, let us know what you think of this 4XE. Have you driven one? What are they like? Does that extra power really make a big difference? Is it a completely different driving experience? Does this just change the Jeep world forever? And, how does this compare to maybe the new Bronco? Like we said before the break, this is definitely making waves out there because Bronco came in and said, hey, you're not the only game in town now.
Yeah, let's do this, JP, for this video. If you're watching this video and you've driven this car, please leave a comment and tell us if you were impressed or underwhelmed. And if you own one of these, are you happy you bought it or are you regretting it? Because we'd love to know. We're super, truly super curious. So leave some cool comments and we'll see what's up with this car. We'll revisit maybe another one of these down the road.
That is the plan. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe, like, and notification button right now, so you know that the new Bid Nerds are around, and share this video. We will see you tomorrow.
Get those words!